are there any questions for the presenters? Anybody? We need to use another microphone, I guess. No, as usual, especially in Czech, I think. Yes, it's not, but still. Okay, so I prepared some questions for basically to ask the full panel. It's a little bit difficult because you have all different backgrounds, so I was thinking how to handle this so that the question is relevant to all of you. So I hope we have to probably adjust each of the questions so that you can address it from where you're coming from, I guess. So initially, I want to ask kind of like a little bit relatively obvious question and general question in terms of still coming back to we've heard about the basically points of view where it's going with technologies and different types of solutions. But generally, I want to still ask you to come back in your thoughts about what trends you see in basically cloud computing that will influence the industries going forward. And you have to pick up anything you can think of. But basically, what do you see to be trends in cloud computing that you would want to highlight, maybe that you feel important in the next year or so? Maybe you can start, Adrian.
Okay, sure. So I think we've touched on some of the trends already today. I think if you think about the explosion of data, it's clearly one of the most obvious of them. It impacts the capacity that we have to manage, but it's more than just the capacity and the storage of that data. It's the analysis of it. So when you bring in the idea of how machine learning and deep learning and neural networks, and there was a really great example we talked about today around how there's too much data for the human mind to try and consume that. So we need the infrastructure to be able to support that. We need to be able to orchestrate and manage for it. We need to be able to handle it at scale.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, okay, thank you. Okay. So are we sharing microphones? Okay, okay.
Yeah, probably. Well, I will have to agree with everything, especially in the industry where we are doing our product. It's obvious that those who have more information are able to do better trades in the crypto trading industry. And maybe more can say Milan about the technical part of those machine learning algorithms.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I also think that AI, artificial intelligence, and big data technologies are one of the drivers for the next generation of data centers, especially for the camera feeds, IoT devices, network securities, transaction securities, and all those stuffs. And for example, from perspective of the Quantasoft, we are dealing with a lot of video streams. So it is approximated for one stream, 1 hour stream to be processed by a human person is like 4 hours. So it is 4 times more than to be processed by a real time. And the problem is that it is not just one camera stream. We have thousands of streams. For example, in Prague, there is approximated to be 3,500 camera streams. So you will require much more people to watch over all the streams and video feeds to be able to be processed. And that's why the data centers might help us to solve this problem, challenging problem.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Okay. Why did you tell me that you will ask such questions? Okay. So
I have 2 more difficult ones.
2 more, okay. So maybe I can tell you more about the future plans of SafeDX, where we are going and what will be the next project, because this is the first, let's say, big project for us. So the second, what we are going to do, so we want to create, using again the Foxconn hardware, so we want to create the SAP cloud in cooperation with another company. And that's the second project. And finally, the third one is to build, let's say, better or robust infrastructure for HPC and for AI. So this is our 2 major projects for us. Hope we will start this year.
Okay, okay. Still, another check if there's any maybe question. Yes, okay, but.
I have one question regarding the rec.
We have a microphone over there, actually.
I have a question. Hello. I have a question about the Rexcal design. Can you somehow compare this kind of solution compared to any other solution like Nutanix or HP SimpliVity or others? And my second part of the question is more on Vladimir. Why did you choose the Rexcal and Intel for cooperation within your SafeDX? Thank you.
Adrian, is it probably maybe for you too?
Sure, it's a great question. I think rather than looking at direct comparisons, what we'd like to look at is the capabilities that this environment offers versus, sorry, not in the versus, but in terms of a progression from the traditional infrastructure environment. So really what we're looking at is that rack-scale design offers the ability to pull in the composability, and not just in the context of the composability in itself, but in the context of the open and industry standard way in which you can manage it. So what becomes particularly important then is the options that opens up for interoperability, particularly from a vendor perspective. Then when you look at, once you have that, you've got the specification that defines, that's open and defines how all of the components of the system, from sleds to modules to racks to the software. And when that's really well defined across the board, that's how it opens up the opportunity for the vendor interoperability, and it opens up the ease of consumption then into the orchestration space. Because ultimately, what we're trying to do here isn't just about deploy infrastructure. It's automated, and it's automate the service delivery on top of it. And I think that's the openness and the clarity in the specifications is one of the differentiating factors for Rexcal.
Thank you. Vlad, it's yours.
Okay, so there is basically long-term cooperation on headquarter level between Foxconn and Intel, okay? And as Alan said, so basically we are changing and we want to, let's say, start to sell our own servers and boxes. So we'll be thinking together how we can help Foxconn in Europe, how we can promote our hardware. So that's why we adopted this technology to basically have some differentiator on the market. Okay.
Yeah. I can only amplify that. I think from just adding to that, because we work together in SafeDX, so I think we can see the potential of this future features, that this composability overall, because at the moment we have some features implemented in the servers, but there is more that can be done as we get more, as we adapt these additional architectures in RSD. So this is something that it was in your slides, Adrian. Adrian. Sorry, that it brings to the customers, to somebody. I'm going to present the case that we can really save on the infrastructure or on the TCO of their environment, of the IT environment, because we can combination of better using the resources, because there is more utilization you achieve in the environment. That's something I really am attracted about. I've seen some of the statistics from Intel that in the financial institutions, for example, there's very limited utilization of the actual environment that they buy into their own data centers or own premises. And through RSD, you can actually really substantially increase this utilization by better managing the workloads and allocating it to specific capacities. And then the workload specialization that you can actually adjust to you don't need to worry about configurations of your hardware anymore. You can basically buy resources and then you just use the software layer. Basically, this is maybe simplifying, but you can use the software layer to really adapt to the workloads. So that's something that I'm attracted from SafeDX perspective as a service provider, that I would like to, that one I want to deliver to my customers.
I think just picking up on that last point, the simplification, that's really a key part of what we want to do here, because like I mentioned, there's no point having amazing technology if you can't deploy it. And one of the reasons that would limit deployment is the complexity. And when you look at rack scale design and the open interfaces to it, and then when you look at the progression we want to do for enabling in the orchestration space, it brings a level of ease of manageability in a scale deployment environment that we think is a compelling value proposition.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Still, maybe give a chance. Okay, there's a question then.
So I'm Jan Struckmeyer from Cloud and Heat Technologies. So what we observe is that there, with these, you were mentioning blockchain and deep learning, that with these technologies, the need for data centers seems to change. I want to hear your opinion on that. So what we observe is that you need tier 3 or 4 data centers, but for just massive amount of data computation, you need more also tier 1 data centers, and also the architecture seems to change. So we have a lot of demand of graphic cards doing highly parallel things there. So is that a thing you also observe, or how do you expect the data center world will change? There's a huge amount of new data centers created, built up, but will they all be the traditional ones, or will they change also a little bit? And how fast will this, if there's a process, how fast will this process be? And simplification also will be probably a very important thing, because areas of non-IT areas now come to the IT using these technology. They want simplicity overall, I think, so very much like your Intel solution there.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not into the blockchain. It's my colleague actually, but I will try to answer the data center part. We were very happy to hear from yesterday, the Intel partner Connect partner, that they're releasing a new hardware. It's called HDDL, High Density Deep Learning cards, and they can be put into the Intel RSD as an add-on. So. Regarding the GPUs, GPUs are required for deep learning, but not all of the algorithms are working with are faster with the GPUs. Yeah, they're much faster for the computer vision algorithms and problems. So regarding the very high compute requirements, we will use probably the Intel HDDL. So, and I believe that this is one of the technologies that can be can grow very fast with the time, and it's very useful for customers as well and for our needs.
Yeah, and I could say that in the trading industry, very often people use LSTM neural network, and it's an example of algorithm which is more faster on the Intel chips than on GPUs. So, and it's very, very popular for analyzing the time series sequences. So.
So it's great to hear that feedback on some of the new Intel capabilities. There's two important keywords, I think, in your question for me that really stand out. The first is the change, and I would add to it the pace of change. And the second is the flexibility. And I think when you're looking at building out data center capabilities right now, you have to have both of those things right at the top of your mind. And that's where the idea of disaggregation as a capability, so that you can choose today what it is you want to put in, and then just either change or upgrade those components of the system, and then recompose it into the changing needs of the workload of the future. I think that's one of the, an important trend that we in the infrastructure business that are looking at developing out this capacity, we have to stay responsive and build out a system that's responsive to that changing need.
Great, thank you. I also heard the question about the data center parameters about tier 3 versus tier 1. Of course, I think it's still going to be developing. We can see in projects around us that there is, with this cryptocurrency, mainly mining related, I think, is basically there's no real requirements about any robustness or any almost maybe security partially, but not necessarily the actual. It's basically reduce the cost as much as you can in terms of the operations of the data center. But what I'm also seeing, even from this cooperation we are presenting to you today, is that I can see that in the trading area, and then also maybe then applying the blockchain concepts to other parts, other industries, basically, I think that will then again have certain more I would call it standard or more rigid requirements for the data center parameters. So yes, our data, for example, SafeDX is not, at the moment, we're not envisaging that we'll be providing services to cryptocurrency miners, but we still think there is plenty of possibilities to cooperate in this sphere. Thank you for the question, of course. Any other questions? Maybe I still have two more here, but I'm saving them. Still have some time. So maybe I have to shoot out the next one. So I thought that I would ask more about the in relation to local environment, but again, I realize that Adrian, mainly also that you will not be familiar with Czech setup. So the question is like, what is your view on position of Czech Republic for DC and cloud services going forward. And for you, I think maybe I would ask you if, from your perspective from Ireland, if you have any thoughts on Eastern Europe, basically, if you have any more wider territory, what do you, because what you're seeing in terms of developments of cloud, data center cloud services in Western Europe versus Eastern, and what do you expect there? And colleagues, the other colleagues, if you maybe can think either also about Eastern Europe, it's okay, or Czech Republic specifically, what do you think, and whether you want to adapt it again to artificial intelligence only or general cloud? I leave it up to you. So if I can again maybe start from Adrian.
If I may, in a European context, I think there is a growing need for localized capabilities and support of your data center. Things like GDPR, the general purpose,
data protection.
The data protection. Excuse me. Yeah. So things like that are affecting the mindset of people that are looking at where is it that their data is going to go, where is it that their application is going to go. And it's important, I think, in that context then that the data centers that are being built out across Europe support the right level of trust and the right level of the confidence that they give to the user, that their data is being protected, that it's in a region that they know about and they're happy with based on their particular local needs. But also I think you look at that there is a capacity across Europe that's needed. And that spans, as we heard earlier, about networks that connect from Europe over to the APAC region. Now, that's particularly important because it is a global economy, and the applications we all use every day are global type applications. There is a need to build out infrastructure that gets you the resiliency and the responsiveness and the locality that you need, but one then that has that connection to the wider ecosystem.
Thank you. Difficult question.
I was trying to cheat, but I couldn't read it.
That's why I handwritten it. Vlad, if you want to go.
Okay. So my opinion regarding the cloud market development is that we are still on the beginning. Okay. I think we are not changing quickly enough. So basically, I see future in young companies which are agile, which have basically no barriers, which are open to basically adopt the cloud services like Quantasoft or Signals Network. So that's, I think, that's the future.
Interesting.
Okay, maybe a little bit about the data protection, GDPR. In Quantasoft, we're dealing with this problem a lot, and especially it's about the video streams, and customer data. So we're actually not storing the customers' data based on the name or email addresses, but we just store some aggregated data about them, and we also think that the data of the customers is very important. So we actually we try to secure them as much as we can. So that's it.
Yes, that's it. Overall, the impact of the data protection legislation is interesting to observe in terms of sometimes making it more complicated to do business, and then of course this European influence that more or less unifies at least the environment in Europe. Pavel, you wanted to share some? Maybe I will just come back to Adrian's comment, because my perspective is from experience, because we're trying to focus actually to attract Western companies to expand to the east, and we being a partner for them. I still see there is like a divide between west and east, to be honest, at the moment at least. I really think that it should be coming, as you described, that it should not. First, there needs to be a local or regional coverage, as well as then it doesn't. There is no major difference if you have infrastructure and capacity that you can provide the service to other locations in the world. But for us, at the moment, at least, we're not seeing it. Maybe from the just limited local Czech perspective, that it's not that many situations where we would be involved in, and even try to trigger these discussions that we can provide services from Prague-based data center in principle to even like a German customer, or even further west customer, whether it's French or Dutch or whatever. So I'm still seeing this divide, actually, to be honest. I hope that it's going to change, but I see that a little bit of this trend at the moment. So pause, questions. We still have 10. I don't know if I speak in 10 minutes, but we don't need to, of course, use it. I have one more question, which I have to also try to read once for myself. So no questions, really? Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is thinking of something again, it will be again one tough for you, I think, overall. That what would you suggest that either Intel, Foxconn, SafeDX do to help in what you're doing in future, either now or in future. So I'm thinking of, okay, we have certain partners today that we presented, which is, again, Intel, Foxconn, SafeDX. And what would be your thinking of what you will come to do that these entities do differently or do more that you could use and benefit from? And I know it's, from each of you it will be difficult probably to think about it, but I thought it would be beneficial for the participants just to show what can be done for in future. Anybody volunteer?
Well, we will see how the cooperation will work, but for us it's great that SafeDX is interested in also startup area and new fields like blockchain. So we are grateful that you are open to this kind of cooperation, and
thank you for these comments, of course.
Okay. So I think it's very easy to be blasé about what we've talked about today. But between Intel, Foxconn, and SafeDX, what we've spoken about is right at the forefront of innovation in the data center. We're looking at a really modern ways of looking at how you build your data center, how you procure parts for your data center, how you operationalize and manage it. And that's a pretty big thing that we've just talked about. And, we pop it up in slides and we pass through it pretty quickly, but that has a real impact, and it's going to impact the entirety of the supply chain right through to the service delivery chain. So what I think is we need to do more of is express that, make sure that people understand the value of what we're talking about and understand that there's a change coming and it's happening really quickly, and in fact it's here today. There is more that we need to do together, but I think when you start to show real examples of how the end users of our infrastructure benefits from what we're doing, and expressing that helps others to come on board more quickly. And you find, before long, in fact, this becomes the standard way of building data centers. And then we'll be on to the next thing.
Yes. Thank you very much, Adrian, for the comment.
Okay, I believe that SafeDX, Intel, and Foxconn can help us a lot. For example, in terms of the accessing to the new technologies and new hardware, so that we can test and benchmark for our own. And the other is, of course, money and budget. So getting more money help us can make a better marketing, and as well as better programmers, better scientists in our group, and other business opportunities, and that can grow our company in general.
Before passing to Vlad, I think that I can only maybe also again resonate this, because this is our approach for SafeDX. We want to work with our customers as our partners, and not only want to limit it, and we think we have these capabilities to limit it to only cloud services, basically, or data center services, because we have, again, I already use that term, ecosystem of, we have relationship with business relationships in the environment, Czech Republic, Central Eastern Europe, so we can offer that as well, of course, to our customers. So I also thank you very much for that comment.
So I'm not sure how this question, fits.
You can think about your parent company, Foxconn, or Intel.
So Foxconn can deliver quicker, okay, and Intel can sell cheaper. That's what we need, good. I think.
Yes. Actually, yeah. I think it was also mentioned that that Intel is bringing in new technologies. The car that was mentioned, or we spoke earlier today with Adrian and Chris about some other technology in the past couple of days. So that's for me, that that we can actually, we have now implemented RSD, but it can be upgraded or supplemented by other platforms that Intel has, and we can actually then do even more for our customers. So that's maybe my answering the question I didn't initially intended to answer. So final call for questions, I think, before we really conclude. No? Okay. So any final words maybe from any of you from that I haven't asked the question you wanted to maybe get?
So I start because I've got a microphone. So I just want to really thank you, all of you, that you save the time and you come here, because this is for SafeDX really important milestone in our, let's say, young history, because this is the first, let's say, official event, if I don't consider the opening of the data center. So thank you for coming. Thank you.
I think this is a great event, but I was struggling with in my head the whole time. Chris said that he hates karaoke. I was just thinking, who likes karaoke here? Can you raise your hands, please?
Two. So two. So you have two, maybe
just
three.
Just us two? Okay.
Okay, I just want to also thank you for this event, and SafeDX will be like very important part of Signal's platform, and we are looking forward for further cooperation.
Thank you.
I think there's been a lot of sharing today, and there's a huge amount of information on the material. So I would encourage folks to go back through it and follow up with your local representatives, get more information, and most importantly, start using this infrastructure, because we believe in the value proposition that it offers. And I think the sooner we get people using it and we develop more use cases, the better.
Yeah.
And thank you.
So thank you very much for these words, all of you. And for me, I think I probably have to wrap it up. I really also thank you for joining us today, for staying until the end. I hope you find it interesting. You learned new things, and we will be really kind of ready to speak with you if you're interested to get more details, get pricing from us as well. We have that available as well. So just reach out to us, and we'll be glad to provide you with work with you in future.